Hello, this is Dr. Jeff Bigelow, Chair of the Electrical and Computer Engineering Department at Oklahoma Christian University. This is another in the series of tools that will help you select a good engineering school for you. This particular video is about graduation rates, which I argue is one of the most important factors you need to consider when you are going to select an engineering school. When you are going to go to college, you're about ready to invest three things. First of all, a lot of money, a lot of time, and finally, a lot of effort. And when you do invest these three very precious commodities that you have, you want to make sure that it's worth it to do so. Now, this means that your goal is to optimize your return of investment. And to do so, you will have to consider graduation rates. Now, this video actually isn't for everyone. First, this video is not for people like Han Solo here, because we are going to be talking about the odds of getting an engineering degree. This is also not a video for those of you like C3PO. Don't get technical with me. Because we are going to get a little technical here in figuring out more of a quantitative measure of an engineering program. Okay, so we're going to have to do a little bit of math here to figure out how to include graduation rates into your calculations. Let's start off with a very simple example. Would you rather invest $1,000 with a 100% chance of returning $3,000, or would you invest $500 with a 100% chance of returning $3,000? Now, this one's pretty easy, right? You're going to invest only $500 because you will still get the maximum return of your investment. Now, this is how most people naturally, almost intuitively, think about picking a engineering school or any college, right? You're going to look at the purchase of an engineering degree as you would a commodity. That's the natural thing to do. In other words, you're going to pick whatever engineering school is the least expensive. There's a problem with that in that engineering school, going to college, is not a commodity, it's rather an experience. And it's an experience that doesn't have a 100% success rate. Let's look at another example. In this case, you can either invest $1,000 with a 100% chance of returning $3,000, or only $500, but then you only have a 10% chance of returning $3,000. In this case, it's not going to be the cheapest, right? So the $500 here is cheaper than the $1,000 here, but because of the success rate of 100% versus 10%, it actually, chances are you're going to lose money with the $500 investment, but you're going to make money with a $1,000 investment. So option one is the better investment here. Okay, third example. Now, would you invest $1,000 with a 60% chance of returning $3,000 and a 40% chance of returning $1,200? Or would you invest $500 with only a 20% chance of returning $3,000 and an 80% chance of returning $1,200? So once again, you can invest either $1,000 or you can invest $500. But look at the percentages here. Because this percentage is so much higher than that percentage down here, it actually makes more sense to invest the $1,000 than it would the $500. And that, if you understand this little bit of math, you can actually understand the importance of a graduation rate. Because what we're going to talk about is tuition becomes this amount of money here. The success rate in engineering falls into place here, and then the graduation rate from the university outside of engineering falls into here. Okay, so let's talk about three important questions you need to ask yourself. What is the four-year engineering graduation rate what is the job placement rate for engineers, and what is the expected yearly tuition and fees minus scholarships. So what is the total cost, what is the job placement rate, and what is the 4-year engineering graduation rate? Nationwide, the graduation rate for engineering is only 30%. It's less than 1 in 3. Now, to be a national average, there has to be some schools that are doing better than that and some schools who are doing worse than that. And if you can go online, you can look at this. The state schools, typical state schools, only graduate about 20% of those who start in engineering to get an engineering degree in 4 years. Private schools, however, often do much better than the national average because they're focusing on teaching and they're focusing on student success. Okay, so if you know the data, you can use the quantitative method I just talked about of actually comparing programs. So we're going to look at sample data. Now this data actually comes pretty close to a state university close to where I work, but here we have the net cost per year, that's room, board, tuition, books, and everything at a typical state university is about $20,000 a year. All right. Graduation rates, though, at state school are only at about 20%. Now, the university graduation rate is at 60%. What that means is 20 out of every 100 students who start at a state school in engineering will get an engineering degree in 4 years, and another 40%, 60 minus 20, get a university degree in that 4 years, but that means there's another 40% who aren't even getting a degree. All right? The second set of data to consider are salaries, and this is taken from some government websites that I found, that engineering starting salaries are close to $70,000 now. If you get a university degree, the average salary is $45,000. But if you have no degree at all, you can earn on an average about $30,000 a year. All right. So let's think about this data using the methods that I was just showing you a few minutes ago. The big question is, when is it a wise return of investment to pay more for college? In other words, when does it make sense financially to pay more tuition to get a better graduation rate? Okay, now there's really two ways to look at this. Number one, from a purely practical financial return of investment. In other words, when does it make sense financially? But there's another part of this that I think is even more important, and that is the human element of it. When does it make sense to invest more in college so you can have a better chance of getting the degree that you actually want to, that you set out to do? That's kind of an intangible in here. We're actually going to focus a little bit more on just the financial aspect of it. But if we do the analysis, if we actually figure out based on the graduation rates down here, remember state universities tend to have around 20%, private schools tend to have better than 40%, but private schools cost more. When is it worthwhile to invest in a university that has a better graduation rate? And this tends to be the line right here. So in other words, if you do find a university that has a 40% graduation rate, then just under 10% increase in tuition is still worthwhile. So in other words, if it has a 40% graduation rate, it might not be worth it to spend 25 or 30% more. However, if you find a university that has 40% and you're only paying 5% more than you would a state school, to me that's a bargain right there. Well, look at what happens if you can get up to 60%. All of a sudden, it's worthwhile financially to invest in a university that has a 60% graduation rate, even if the tuition is close to 20% more. That is huge. That needs to be part of your thinking when it comes to picking and selecting a university that's going to help you succeed in engineering. Graduation rates are huge. Even though private school typically have a higher cost per year, it trounces state school in return of investment. My recommendation to you is invest your money, time, and effort in a program with a high graduation rate. And that means you're really going to have to figure out what the graduation rates of the engineering school is before you make the decision. Now, don't be fooled. What I'm talking about for those who start in engineering and those who get an engineering degree in 4 years. Those who start in engineering and get a degree from that university in anything else, that might be far higher than that. But what you want to know is for those who start in engineering, what is the graduation rate of getting an engineering degree with that? I do want to talk a little bit about our program. We have put a lot of emphasis on graduation rates. We do that because we want you to get a great return of investment at Oklahoma Christian. We want the students to succeed. We put a lot of effort in student success. We're a teaching university. We focus on mentoring and guiding the students through the program. Now, the 4-year graduation rates in engineering for all of the electrical and computer engineering department is over 70%. Stop the video and look back at what that means of what you ought to be willing to pay to get that 70%. The second element, though, of those who have a math ACT of 28 or higher, in other words, are ready to start in Calc 1, it's been over 80% for the last 4 graduating classes, over 80%. In other words, 80% of those who start in electrical and computer engineering will get an engineering degree in 4 years.
I like those odds.
And that is a big reason why we invite you to consider Oklahoma Christian as a place to study electrical or computer engineering. You can set up a campus visit by going to the website here, or you can email me directly and we'll start a dialogue about that. But if you are serious about getting a degree in electrical or computer engineering, you need to consider Oklahoma Christian.